Today we will be working on percents. Please copy down the standard benchmark indicator on a clean page in your math notebook. The student will identify representations of a given percent and describe orally and in writing the equivalence relationships among fractions, decimals, and percents. Understanding percent. A percent is a ratio that compares a part to a whole. The second term in the ratio is always 100. The whole is 100%. The grid has 60 of 100 squares shaded. So you can see the fraction that put 60 over 100, which equals 60%, because percent means per 100. When the second term of the ratio is not 100, you can write an equivalent ratio with a denominator of 100, or use a proportion to find the percent shown by the part. So here, for the circle, they have one section shaded out of 10, so that's 1/10. They multiplied the numerator and the denominator and the fraction by 10 to get up to hundreds, to 100, and so then you get 10 out of 100, which makes it 10%. Or you can write it as a fraction, so they have 1 over 10 equals, x is just a variable, it just means an unknown number, over 100. Then they cross-multiplied, so they multiplied the 100 times 1 and put it on the right. Then they did the 10 times the x and put it on the left. Then they divided both sides by 10, which got us x equals 10. We will be learning more about how to do that as we get into solving equations, but it's also a method you can try now if you feel comfortable with it. The line segment over here also represents 100%. And then they're asking us what percent is shown by point A. So we have 2/5, because the A is on the second slash out of 5 sections. Then they multiply the numerator and the denominator by 20, because 5 times 20 is 100, and whatever you do at the bottom of a fraction, you have to do the top of a fraction. So 2 times 20 is 40, or 40%. And they also did it again using the ratio. For numbers that don't easily go up to 100, in our next lesson, we're going to be connecting fractions to decimals to percents, so we'll be working on that then. So we will get to that. Write the percent of each figure that is shaded. So number 1, we have a hundreds block, so we know there's 100 little squares there. So we know that we have 9 columns filled in and 4 more, which means we have 94%. For number 2, we only have 3 blocks shaded in, and again, we know it's out of 100, so it's 3%. For 3, we have 4 blocks there, and we have 10 total. So we have 4 out of 10, we're going to need to get that fraction up to 100. To go from 10 to 100, we have to multiply by 10, and whatever we do to the bottom of a fraction, we have to do to the top to keep it equivalent. So 4 times 10 is 40, which makes 40%. For number 4, we have 2 out of the 4 circles shaded in, so we're going to write that as a fraction and set it up as a ratio to 100. We know to get from 4 to 100, we have to multiply by 25. So you have to do the same thing to the top. So 2 times 25 is 50, which makes it 50% of the circles are shaded. For 5, they've already labeled the fraction for us. We have 6/8 of it is shaded. Now we know 8 doesn't go into 100 evenly. However, if we simplify the fraction, we get 3/4, and 4 will go into 100. So we're going to set up the proportion using the simplified fraction. Then we know 4 times 25 is 100, so we're going to multiply 3 times 25, which gets us 75. So 75% of the line is shaded. For 6, they've already told us how far that dash is up the line. We know the end of the line is 100, and we know we're at 19 shaded up to, so that gives us 19%. For number sense, Jana divided a sheet of paper into 5 equal sections and colored 2 of the sections red. What percent of the paper did she color? So we're going to set up a proportion with 2/5 as our fraction equals 100 is going to be the denominator in the second one, and we need to figure out the numerator. We know to get from 5 to 100, we multiply by 20. So we're going to do the same thing to the 2 at the top and get 40. That means Jana shaded in 40% of her paper. Finally, for 8, writing to explain, shade each model to show 100%. Explain how you knew how many parts to shade. Well, we know 100% is the whole, so we know to shade the entire thing. So please make sure you have all of the work copied down and then glue this page in your math notebook.